talk to you about the Union Carbide gas leak in the city of Bhopal in 1984 and its impact on urban life in the city. Just to give a little background, Union Carbide was a pesticide-producing plant that was formed in 1969. On December 3, 1984, tragedy occurred with the leak of tons of methyl isocyanate gas from the plant. The leak resulted in the death of over 16,000 people in the space of a few days. Many till today are affected by this disaster. Bhopal started off much like Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras as a fortified city in the 18th century. Post-1947, Bhopal was made the capital of Madhya Pradesh, a state in central India. The 1956 Industrial Policy Resolution, implemented by Jawaharlal Nehru and his government, sought to reduce disparity between various states, which benefited Bhopal, and it became a growing urban center.
Today we will analyze how the Union Carbide gas disaster caused environmental degradation, limited the influx of private foreign investment, and jolted the local socio-cultural system that resulted in the city experiencing a stagnant urbanization during a time when India was rapidly industrializing. The gas spread over 40 square kilometers and seriously affected people within a 5 to 8 kilometer radius from the site due to the air and waterborne pollution. Muslims and lower caste Hindu households that were located just down the street from the plant were affected most severely. Civilians who lived in the area surrounding the plant were displaced and moved to slums farther from the site. The environmental degradation caused by the disaster drastically affected Bhopal's housing patterns and the way the city has expanded. This massive population displacement caused the city to expand into the new city, which is why Bhopal is now divided into the new and old city today. The old city has an unplanned system crowded with slums and juggies. Water in the old city is contaminated, so those who live there receive water from the government. The new city is highly developed and is where urbanization occurred, like most cities in India, and is where most people in Bhopal live. This disparity of urban trends was caused by the environmental degradation associated with the disaster. The Bhopal disaster strained socioeconomic ties. Many people living in Bhopal claim that the gas disaster led to a cultural loss because of the drastic social and environmental changes that occurred throughout the city. Essentially, the drastic change in society became associated with the sense of loss and damage of what was once a booming urban center. The atmospheric pollution affected local relationships by the vast displacement of people. People were physically disabled and thus unable to work. In the article entitled "Twice Poisoned Bhopal," Chandana Mathur states that over 70% of the exposed population has been in the unorganized sector, with people earning subsistence wages who can no longer pursue those trades after being exposed to carbide gases. The loss of regular income has driven tens of thousands of families to chronic starvation conditions. Essentially, the disaster placed the old city of Bhopal in desperate and poverty-stricken conditions, which starkly contrasts its previously developing society and economy. As I mentioned, the hardest hit groups were the poorer communities that lived near the site. However, the lives of women in particular also changed. In his article entitled "Personal Exposure and Long-Term Health Effects," Ramanadhara states that some women became the bread earners of the households, while others were hated for their inability to reproduce. Inadequate health facilities in the gas-affected area left civilians either poorly treated or not treated at all.
The disaster of 1984 stunted industrialization and flow of private foreign investment into Bhopal. In 1991, as India liberalized and opened up its economy to foreign investment, Bhopal, the once growing and prospering city of the 1980s, did not receive much investment, partly because of the trauma and negative perception of foreign multinational companies in the city of Bhopal. As Annapurna Shah in her article "Emerging Patterns of Urban Growth in India" explains it, and I quote, "There was unevenness in the investment made in the country, and Bhopal did not attract any." In fact, the chart on the next slide shows that the investment made in Bhopal in 1991 was 19 crore rupees, or USD 4.3 million, which is much smaller than any other city listed in the table. This is what Shah explains as the periphery effect. The periphery effect is a term that she uses to describe urban centers that did not experience the growth that other cities like Delhi and Bombay experienced. Bhopal until today has small industries that are entirely accounted for by the central government. The reason for this, as Edward Broughton explains in his article, "The Bhopal Disaster and its Aftermath," is the effect of the 1984 disaster on labor. With many citizens still suffering from health effects of the gas leak and requiring medical help every day, the availability of skilled labor has drastically reduced in the city. It is this stunted industrialization that has made urban dwellers in the city poorer and has resulted in the development of slums in urban areas. In conclusion, the gas leak of 1984 has affected the urban dwellers in the city of Bhopal. Urban life in the city till today is traumatized and suffers from the hangover of the 1984 gas leak. The disaster derailed Bhopal's expansion and growth as a city. It caused it to experience stagnancy and urbanization during a time that India was rapidly industrializing. It affected the housing patterns in Bhopal with the creation of a new city that has divided Bhopal into two parts. The 1984 gas leak was a major event that has and will continue to shape urban life in Bhopal. Thank you.